Hey everyone, this is a really tragic story about betrayal. Make sure to listen all the way to the end, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. And now, let's begin. He stood by the window, holding the ring he once put on with the certainty that it would be forever. Outside, the evening was fading slowly. The sky was dull, the rain fell steadily, as if whoever was in charge of the weather had simply grown tired of changing it. In the reflection on the glass, he saw his own face, unfamiliar, exhausted, lifeless. He had never imagined he could become this kind of man, the kind capable of betrayal, the kind who destroys a life not in one moment, but little by little, step by step, while smiling and saying, "Everything's fine." But that's how it happens. No one cheats suddenly. Betrayal begins earlier, when the heart turns cold and you pretend nothing's wrong. When you stop looking into each other's eyes, not because you don't want to, but because you're afraid of what you might hear. He remembered one evening when his wife said, "You've changed." He smirked and replied, "I'm just tired." She nodded, but in her eyes flashed a pain he didn't notice. That was when everything started to fall apart. They used to be real, arguing, laughing, dreaming, making plans. Now it was just silence, short phrases, empty glances. He left for work before she woke up, came home after their son had gone to bed. He thought it was just a rough patch, that things would pass. But they didn't. Everything became a routine. The house, the family, dinner, the TV. He no longer felt joy or inspiration. He was just existing, because that's what you're supposed to do. And then she appeared. A coworker, new, with an open smile and those kind of eyes that look right at you, without judgment. She was light, genuine, real. Being with her felt easy, no reproach, no expectations. She listened. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. Because attention is a drug for someone who hasn't been heard in a long time. He started waiting for their talks, then for her messages, then for their meetings after work. It all happened gradually. First coffee, then lunch, then the night he didn't come home. He told himself it was just an accident, a moment of weakness, a mistake. But mistakes don't repeat themselves. And he kept repeating it. Every time he said, "This is the last time." But his heart had stopped listening. She became a habit, like breathing. And the more he reached for her, the further he drifted from home. At first, it felt like life. He felt young again, wanted again, alive again. But every moment of pleasure was followed by the same thing, emptiness. And the more he got, the deeper that emptiness grew. He began to notice how his wife looked at him, not with suspicion, but with quiet despair. It was as if she knew but didn't ask, and he stayed silent, because he was a coward. Because it's easier to lie than to admit that you destroyed everything yourself. He tried to end it, but he couldn't. She would text, and he would reply. He would call, and she would come. It was like a sickness, eating him from the inside. And then one evening, it all ended. He came home, and his phone was lying on the table, unlocked with a message on the screen. She sat across from him, calm, almost too calm, and said, "I know everything." Her words didn't sound like an accusation. They sounded like a sentence. He wanted to explain, but he knew there were no words that could fix what was already done. She just looked at him and asked, "Why?" He stayed silent. Because he didn't know. Because he couldn't tell the truth. The truth wasn't about passion or another woman. The truth was that he had stopped being the man she once loved. She left. No shouting, no tears, no drama. She just picked up her bag, closed the door, and left behind silence. And silence is the worst thing that remains after love. Time passed. He tried to live, but everything in the house reminded him of her. The cup she loved, the book she read before bed, her scent still caught in the pillow. He tried to throw things away but couldn't. You can get rid of objects, but not memories. He still saw the woman he'd lost everything for, but she no longer stirred anything inside him. No joy, no desire, only regret. He realized that cheating doesn't save you. It only shows you how far you've already fallen. He stopped seeing her, but the guilt stayed. It lived inside him, in every glance, in every lonely morning. Sometimes he'd go outside and watch couples walking by, laughing, arguing, holding hands, and think, I used to be like that. I used to have someone worth everything, and I destroyed it myself. He tried calling, texting, but she never answered. Only once, a short message came. I've forgiven you, but I don't want to come back. Those words became the final point. He understood that forgiveness isn't the same as return. You can forgive, but you can't forget. He stopped making excuses, just lived. Went to work, came home, turned on the old record player, and played that same song they used to dance to in their first year of marriage. He listened and felt everything inside him tighten. Not from love, from realization. From the understanding that he hadn't lost her because of the affair, but because of the silence. He finally understood. Love doesn't die suddenly. It dies slowly in the small things. When you stop asking how the day was. When you forget to hug. When the phone becomes more important than a look. When you think time will fix things, but time only erases traces. Now he lived alone. He had a job, a car, acquaintances, but nothing real. Some mornings he'd get in the car and just drive. Nowhere in particular. Just to the places where they used to be happy. Places don't change, people do. And in those places, he no longer felt warmth. Only cold. Like a quiet reminder. He stopped being afraid of loneliness because he understood. The worst thing isn't being alone. It's living with the knowledge that you betrayed yourself. Sometimes he saw her from afar. She was different now. Calm, confident, beautiful. Walking next to another man, holding his hand. He watched, and he didn't feel jealousy. He felt peace, because someone finally gave her what he couldn't. And in that moment, he realized he still loved her, truly. Without hope, without expectations. The way you love once, after you've lost it all. In the evenings, he sat by the window, drank tea, and thought that maybe this was how it was meant to be. Maybe only through pain do we finally understand. But still, one thought always remained. If only he had talked to her that day. If only he hadn't stayed silent, pretending everything was fine, and just said, I'm hurting. I don't want to lose you. Maybe things would have been different, but now it's too late. And too late is the worst phrase in the world. It's louder than any scream. He lived with those words every day. Sometimes he looked at the ring on the shelf and wondered if one day he'd meet her eyes again, without pain, without blame, just as two people who once meant everything to each other. And if that day ever came, he knew what he'd say. Thank you. For loving him. For believing in him. For leaving behind at least a piece of the man he used to be. Because the betrayal didn't just destroy their love, it destroyed him. And now, living alone, he knows one thing for certain. There's nothing worse than losing the person who loved you even when you no longer deserved it.